Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Owen. Happy birthday to you. Yay. Yay.
Oh, beautiful.
Very beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. All righty. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm Michele, compulsive overeater and bulimic. I'm happy to be here. I don't know if anyone had a chance to, but for today, a nice little segue, the slogan, meeting makers make it. And for today was about, at meetings I feel at home, I get to share who I am. I'm accepted. I find comfort. And I'm welcomed by others as I was welcomed. And I'm with my sisters and brothers. So it's a family affair. And let's get this recovery party started. And this share is rated R for recovery, one day at a time. I don't have to be any more or any less than I'm meant to be, or my higher power needs me to be purposeful. And I had a weight problem, which is a WAIT problem. And then once I had that weight problem, that impulsivity, it turned into a WEIGHT problem, that emotional weight, which triggered me to pick up. And ironically, the first two letters in the word weight are we. So we come together because of our weaknesses. And again, we get better together. And I love a lot of our slogans. The hope, hang on, pain ends. Happy to hear other people's experiences. Happy our program exists. And hang on, peace exists. Also, too, before program, I was at FOG, F-O-G. But then there's our beautiful slogan, FROG, fully rely on God. So when I want to rely on myself, FOG. When I rely on God, life is easier. It's not simple. Program is simple. Life is hard, but I have the tools to work with program. And it's about a POA, a plan of attention. Not only plan of action, but because before I have action, I need to have attention and awareness. And it's kind of like the 3 A's, awareness, acceptance, and action. And recovery is about discovery. So I call it kind of discovery. And it's all tell to be well. It's all about honesty, one day at a time. And I can be a recovery avenger. Just like Dr. Bob and Bill talked about, I need to help someone else. If I want to keep it, I have to help someone else. And I called myself before the ABCO girl to woman. A, I've been anorexic. B, bulimic. C, compulsive overeater. And the O for overexercising. I have all the blood types covered. The diseases in my blood, but so is recovery. And so I asked myself, with some of my behaviors, is this a step towards recovery or is this a step towards relapse? For example, today I went to go volunteer and there wasn't a time to have lunch. And I'm not one that I don't skip my meals. Before program, absolutely, but I'll talk about that with my sponsor, tomorrow. When is the just right time? Also, too, this disease is a life and death situation for me. And I delight in that because I want to keep my spirituality. The spirituality is so much more nourishing than the behavior of the disease, the compulsive behaviors of the disease. And the same letters that are in the word disease is the phrase, as I seed. So again, the seeds that I put in each day, what are they for my recovery? I called my sponsor. I heard my sponsee. I sent in my POA. All of those actions define the willingness. And also, too, definitely before a program, I put the M in immature and the M in impulsiveness and thought about, it talks about in the big book, what can I, rather than thinking about what can I get out of it, what can I bring to a situation? Because that was kind of the analogy with food before. What can I get out of food? It's not about me. It's about giving service. And honestly, when I give a service, there's the abundance. That's the humility. I said to my sponsee just before this meeting, I want program to be a space maker, not a space taker. My character defects are space takers. They rob me of that spirituality. They rob me of the fluidity. They rob me of the serenity to be of service and to be just who I need to be, to surrender. So what was it like before? Well, when I was born, I was already a compulsive overeater because I did mother's milk. It wasn't enough. And my mom told me the story. You know what? As soon as I gave you the formula, with that, one of my red foods in it, I was hooked. I began compulsively over-exercising at 9 years of age. My father had a softball team, and we would have lots of picnics at parks. Rather than me socializing with people, I'd be out around walking. Also, too, I remember counting calories at age 9. My dad lovingly, I think in the 70s, early 70s, he took me to the movie Binging. And so my nickname was Binge. Hello, already being called Binge, even though it was out of love, it was kind of already put in my path per se. But also too, I think I was about 5 or 6, and the school had a little bit of a holiday store for the kids. And so some of the little girls, they were getting dolls and things for themselves. What did I get? I got an ornament that was a cutting board and a fork. I'm telling you, it's like, I'm a compulsive eater. You know what? My compulsive overeating was my default. I had plenty of decades of being the jaywalker, thinking that this is the day that I will have the quick fix for a lifetime. And my life will be that, that white picket fence. And also, there are other isms in my family and generations of it, but I thought that's not me. That's not me. You know what? My disease just had a different topography. I have a drug. It comes in a box, or it came in a drive-through, or it came in a bag, or it was in the freezer. But one day at a time, eating 3 meals and nothing in between, I get to practice just like Roseanne did. Practice what life is without picking up. No matter what, I don't pick up no matter what. And when in doubt, leave it out. I used to use food to numb myself, to hide, to suffocate my voice. My vocals were held hostage, dealing with my Ferris wheel of emotions, trying to control situations I had no control of. You know what, I would probably about, maybe a dozen years ago, because it was definitely before coming back to program, I saw the serenity prayer. Oh, that's not for me. That's just hogwash. I don't need it. I love the serenity prayer, the third step prayer, the serenity prayer, the resentment prayer. You know what, with the resentment prayer, it talks about wishing someone else health, prosperity, and happiness. If you take the first 3 letters of those words, HPH, higher power has you coming, going, and backwards, and even when I'm in yoga class, I might wish everyone HPH if I'm in a balanced pose that I can't get, because again, it's about the comfort of the group. It's about being accepted. It's about giving contribution. Another thing was that, I had a hangover of defensiveness, after a binge, even at 9, 10, 14, 22, whatever age, after I binged, I just felt grotesque with all my body trying to digest all that extra food. And I was at war with my body. I want to say about 10 years ago, I was in a book club with a group of ladies, and we did a vision board, or an individual vision board. In the middle of the vision board, I had a green military vest with a military hat on it as the center, saying, I am so tired of the war in my body. My body was the stepchild to my mind, and I didn't have any spirituality. My higher power was kind of, I think I heard it called, a hot teabag higher power. Like only use your higher power when you're in hot water. Not so much today. Rather than gossip, I get to gossip. I get to check in with my higher power. I was a chubby child, too much junk in the trunk, physically and emotionally. I was the heaviest of my friends. My parents had to hide, My parents had to hide their food, some of their food in their bedroom. I used my dad's silver coins to go buy some of my binge foods. I was probably, maybe 11 or 12 years old. And then I just let my sister take the blame and the punishment for it. In middle school, I started to lose weight. I got compliments from the male coaches, and then my disease had the green light. When my friends were of driving age, when we would go out, we were going to a fast food place, I would get the smallest thing. I don't eat much. When I would get home, binge galore, binging palooza, I loved to go babysitting. I loved the kids, but I also loved it for the FF, the food factor, and if I was visiting you, I kind of read you, well, what kind of house is that with that type of food, And then also too, when I was a junior and senior, either sophomore, no, probably a junior and senior in high school, I was put in charge of a red food binge area for 2 years as a ski club. It was, a way to make money, a fundraiser. Long story short, I stole numerous red binge food items from that place, so much so that I probably, maybe 3 years ago, I made financial restitution on my amends. So, also when I played field hockey, my coach said, if you just lose 15 pounds, I'll put you on the front line. So all sorts of, messages about, I wasn't good enough, the weight I was, and it was focusing on the weight. In college, I lost the freshman 15. That was another disease green light. I had no roommate, so I could do whatever I want with my food and just be in isolation. You know what? My disease celebrates isolation. My recovery celebrates community and honesty. And actually, I was in nursing school. And in 1987, I left nursing school because I couldn't do it perfectly. And I couldn't ask for help. And then that's when I was actually hospitalized for my eating disorder. My college roommate was actually hospitalized for her eating disorder. I think, you know what? I was so kind of Pollyanna about my going to the eating disorders unit because I was so young and like, I might try this. This is just another class. And actually during that time, I was introduced to OA, but I thought, you know what? All these people, they're probably maybe a decade or two older than me. What do I have in common? And that's not the case today. But it didn't take to me. I didn't have the willingness, and I just didn't follow up. So let me see. Again, decades of jaywalking. Oh, and also too, my psychiatrist at the end of that experience, he said, "You will help others one day." I'm like, oh, sure, yeah. One night, what 19-year-old wants to be told what to do? And then also that I have an allergy to sugar, flour, artificial sweetener and caffeine. Then also to just, again, my life was still pretty much out of balance. I even probably maybe another 10 years ago, I was in denial about my eating disorder, and I was included in an art exhibit called Scales Are for Fish. And they had us decorate these scales. It was actually the week honoring individuals with eating disorders. And I decorated the scales, still in denial. And on the scale, it said, the weight of the matter is that you matter. And here's some more telling on the disease as an adult. I wasn't a puker. I could say I arrived if I could. However, when over-exercising, I would say to myself that I wanted to vomit out my feelings. I used laxatives. Thinking about it just gives me chills today. And you know what? Again, that experience, that immediate hit as far as using the laxatives and then going and defecating out in the community when I was over exercising, releasing it, and then the cycle would begin again. And when one uses laxatives, it's not that immediate release because there's several days afterwards again. So it's not just that quick hit. I belong to a health club, since about high school. That was my bar, compulsively over-exercising, step cardio spinning class, back-to-back classes, sometimes immediately after a binge. It's so insane. I restricted fats and water. I love water now. Like water is my hydration. It's my go-to. In fact, for some of my meals, I add more water to make sure that I get enough water. I restricted going to a nutritionist, even after being in the eating disorders unit. But when I came here to Florida in 2015, I think probably 6 to 8 months after that, I saw a nutritionist, and I'm very grateful to get with her experience, strength, and hope to get me on track. As far as numbers per se, my highest weight twice in my life was 185. What cost had this disease the payoff was I almost fainted at a black tie social event because that morning I had binged on red food, frozen behaviors of a friend's refrigerator while I was watching her children. I fainted in spin class in August of 2015 because I was binging in the morning on something healthy and other things. I probably had messed with my electrolytes. I've broken teeth compulsively overeating. Through all this, I've had an abbreviated and restricted life, emotional anorexia, and would rather feel the weight and the numbness of a binge. When compulsively over-exercising with my life, I began to defecate out in the community to get a high release and payoff. I didn't care. I could have gone to jail. In 2000, I walked a marathon, and my colleagues were concerned because I look anorexic. They even had the social worker come to talk to me. I had 10 years of online dating. I tried to keep my eating disorder a secret. I met my husband in 2010 with my disease in high gear, and I can remember needing to replace his food in the middle of the night while compulsively over-exercising to get there. In fact, I would exercise, overly over-exercise to get to the store to put it back in the refrigerator. My life, thank you so much. My life was definitely a bolt zone from hit to hit. So in the food, I was self-centered, inconsiderate, and struggled with relationships and siblings and growing up. How much time did I really have to be attentive to them if I was coked up on carbs, etc.? So, I married my husband in 2015, and in August of 2015, I committed to the 90-day. And OA has given me a new menu for living. I don't need to design it. My architect, HP, lays out the plans, and I just need to know how for the footwork. I need to be honest, open, and willing. Before program, I was impaired. Now I'm paired with my HP. Same word, but different meaning. I have had such beautiful sponsors that guided me with grace, strength, knowledge, non-judgmental approaches. The gift of desperation was my only hope. They have modeled amazing spiritual paths, recovery, and commitments to service. I received my food plan from my sponsor and called daily, worked the steps, and did a book study. Some days it was moment by moment, but I would be abstinent. I would remind myself if it's not on the food plan, I need to stand up for my allergy. I don't eat my husband's food, just like I don't eat his underwear. And again, when in doubt, leave it out. The saving grace, my food plan is enough. I don't need to romance the food. I need to romance carrying the message. Food is nutrition, not for entertainment or punishment. And at breakfast, I say the steps to check to see if there's any space on my spoon for my higher power. And that's an indicator of my willingness and pace of the day. And all it takes is a suddenly, just like it talks about in the big book. The last 4 words of suddenlies is lies. When he wanted to put the whiskey in the milk. Bam, it happened that quickly. So what lies am I telling myself that I want to take that first compulsive bite? I can't leave before the miracle happens. The same letters that are in the word miracle are I'm clear. I'm clear that I'm a compulsive overeater, and it's only a spiritual solution that keeps me sane. There's no answer in a bag, a box, or a drive-through. I saw on a church billboard once, go through to grow through. Always like the hokey pokey for me. I have to put my whole self in with surrender and service to turn myself around with the steps, traditions, principles, and fellowship. The power of 3. Step 3, patio, pause and turn it over. 3 meals, nothing in between. 3-1, 301. 3 meetings, 3 calls, 3 times to exercise a week. I currently sponsor 1 sponsee from each of my programs. My sponsees inspire me with grace, willingness, honesty, insight, reflection, and hope. Service saves me from myself. I lead meetings, I host meetings. I've been intergroup reps, outreach calls, speaker opportunities, and serve on committees. I'm grateful for my meditation practice, and my food mirrors my sanity in my life. If I begin to wiggle, I need to check on my honesty. And ironically, in the middle of the word honesty is the word 1. And it all goes back to the powerlessness of step 1. HP3, his plan, his power, and pace. And my abstinent date, my higher power has a sense of humor, is 1, 2, 3. I can't dance that dance one, that enough. That's a healthy habit worth exercising. And the best view of recovery is to surrender with humility, teachability, and acceptance. And in the middle of the word surrender is RR for rest and relaxation. So when I surrender, I have rest and relaxation. I don't need to resist anymore. And WTF, from fear to faith to freedom to Florida. And ironically, the word Florida, the first 2 letters are FL, the next letter and the last letter is OA, and the middle word is RID, R-I-D, as it talks about in the big book as far as being restless, irritable, and discontent. So the statement is, in Florida, OA helps me, or rids me from being restless, irritable, and discontent one day at a time. And I need to binge on the tools. I need to gain spiritual weight. My acts of service are my children, and I don't have to be afraid to walk in my light and not my weight. Teachable moments. are not a place of fear, but a shared shade of gray with my higher power, to be comfortable in my gray. And the word patience, literally there's the phrase, peace in it. To have patience and go back to wait. I want this program to be I would like, I hope my higher power has me be this program, a space maker and not a space taker. My husband calls me the Zen wife. That certainly wasn't before a program. And my living amends to my husband, my first probably 4.5 years of program, I was actually doing a lot of recovery from about 5 or 6 to 8 a.m. And now that's different. Again, with the willingness, with flexibility, with communication, with cooperation and not making decisions unilaterally, there's a greater sense of balance. And in the word balance, if one pulls out the ABC in balance, it keeps life simple. The letters that are left are LEAN. What am I leaning on? Who am I leaning on? I have one higher power. If I am worshiping too many things, or if I'm giving my attention to too many things, the struggle will win. But one higher power, one day at a time, 3 meals, nothing in between. And so lastly, TGIS is thank God, it's the steps, surrender, service, sanity, and TGIR, thank God it's recovery. And thank you for allowing me to share.
Unmuted. I was saying, yay.